city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within, to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus in the praise of him, by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention him, or then you're gon' die. Cause the underground sound ain't a city or a town, the business of a crown, of the living that abounds, in the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, the frown.
Oh, guys, I've had the weirdest day over here. So my buddy Scott Davenport, known him for like 10 years. He goes out and writes a book. Now, I don't even know if Scott Davenport can read a book, but he decides he's going to go out and write a book. Write a book, allegedly. What's that mean? He got a few dollars saved up and he sent it to an editor? Okay, so he writes this book and he sends it to me and he asks me to, hey, man, can you help me get the word out? It's like, Scott, that's not really what I do. I don't really get the word out. Like, I have a different audience with my relationship. I mean, I would tell him, this is one of the worst books I've ever read. It's edited right. Most of the periods are where they're supposed to be. There's a lot of punctuation errors. I mean, this book is really bad. It's like remarkably bad. My mother used to play once a month. She would go and play a game called Bunko. And she would always come home, and I'd always make a deal with her and say, Mom, you got to wake me up when you get home. Just let me know that you're home. And she always would. And she used to win something called the Booby Prize. And I was too young to know what the Booby Prize was. All I know is my mom came home with a gift, and it was kind of cool. Well, when I got older, I found out that the Booby Prize goes to whoever plays Bunko and gets last place. If you're the absolute worst player, they give you a prize as a gift. My buddy Scott Davenport wrote the Booby Prize.
Wow, who would have thought that book turned out to be really helpful?
So I got another book for sale. It's called Scott Strong. It's also available on Amazon. You might want to check that one out. All right, Pete Rubish and I are live with Steve Gentili. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going pretty well, man. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been a while since I've been asked to do one of these things, so a little rusty.
Yeah, so no, it's all good, man. I understand. I feel the same way about how things are for me, because
Yeah, you've had your fair share of battles with injuries yourself, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this with a few other guys, but it's honestly like powerlifting is so much like, what have you done for me lately? And especially with social media, I feel like if you're not like constantly hitting PRs or doing meets all the time, then people kind of like stop caring as much. And that's how it's been for me, because I hit my peak social media wise and everything like 2016 or 2017, and then since then it's kind of like fallen off. So
Yeah, no, you're not the first person to reach out to me and say that stuff too. I know it's like, it's a mind fuck. You go from being the biggest and the strongest you ever were and posting videos of yourself, accomplishing all these goals, and then you have one small thing go wrong and then it's all over. And then your sponsors walk away from you. You got people that you thought were closer to you that walk away from you. It's definitely a mind fuck for sure.
yeah, and I mean, like, obviously I worked with Animal for like 5 years, and just this year, like, everything ended on good terms, and I really have no complaints about them. Like, everything was phenomenal. They treated me great, but like, it's kind of at the same time, it's kind of humbling and puts a chip on your shoulder when a company like walks away from you and it's like, all right, we're no longer interested after 5 years. And I get it. I would have done the same if I was in their shoes, because I haven't hit anything in about 2 years, and 2018 was it. But it's almost like, all right, well, that's motivation right there. And I know, like, you've been through setbacks and everything, obviously.
Right. Yeah, it was a big slap in the face this year too, man. Like I had the last year at Record Breakers, I tore my pec, and then in May, just a year ago this month, I had the quad tear, so I had the surgery on that, and then 2 months after that, I was in the hospital and found out I had stage 5 kidney failure. So I was almost on the verge of going into dialysis, and just kind of put things in perspective of like what my career was going to look like going forward, if I was going to compete again. And, those were all things up in the air. But similar to you, was with Beast Sports for 5 years, big supplement company out in Florida, and they just called me this month to let me go. They're saying it was on Corona, and everybody's got these scaled back a little bit because everyone's kind of scared with the economy and stuff. But I had a feeling it was coming. Like you said, it's motivation to me. I definitely know like where my goals are, like coming back into powerlifting. But just taking it day by day, man. Like I really, after all those things combined last year, I got zero expectations out of myself, and just like honestly, dude, just lucky to be alive. Like I spent 7 nights in the ER hooked up to machines, and like in retrospect, knowing what I know now, but at the time it was fucking scary as hell. Like they couldn't figure out why my blood pressure was 270 over 140, and they're like, we don't understand why you're not in a coma. And I thought it had something to do with the medications from the knee surgery, and they ended up doing the kidney biopsy and figuring out that it was FSGS, that it was something I've been dealing with for a long time.
So what exactly, how were you feeling when you're like, all right, I got to go to the emergency room?
Dude, like that's the fucking thing, man. Like I was like feeling good. I was like still deadlift. I think I hit like an 815 deadlift like a month before I was in the hospital, or a month before the knee surgery. So it was like I felt fine up until my knee popped. And then when that happened, I was rehabbing the knee and just feeling a little tired, like, and something was off, but I didn't really understand what. And that's something that everybody complains about, like any power lifter you talk to is going to be like, I'm feeling fucking fatigued, So it's like one of those things where I thought I was being a pussy and just like, all right, you got to push through this. You got to push through this. But actually it wasn't until one night I was with my lady and we were going at it in the bedroom, and right afterwards I felt like I couldn't catch my breath, and I was like, dude, I'm getting fucking old, like I can't fucking breathe. I don't know what the hell is going on. I went into the bathroom and I started coughing up blood, and I'm like, all right, this isn't normal. So I ended up like having a little bit of anxiety, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this Xanax, which was like the worst idea because it's a respiratory suppressor, something you shouldn't be doing when you're coughing up blood. But I took the Xanax, went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning like I probably got bronchitis. So I walked over to a little CVS Minute Clinic, and I told the lady the symptoms I was having. She put the blood pressure cuff on me, and it was 270 over 140. She's like, you need to go to the ER right now. You're having a crisis. And I was like, I feel fucking fine. I walked in here, and she's like, you don't feel lightheaded? You don't have headaches? I'm like, no, none of that. And she's like, that means you've been dealing with this for a long time. So I think over the years, just looking back, I could probably pin it to 2017 when I had at Summer Smash and for SBF meet. I was getting ready for the meet and ended up doing a water cut, and my ankles were swelling up with water, and I couldn't figure out why. And like looking back, those were all kidney issues. And then also the meets I had after that, that was the last time I hit a PR. I did 2 meets after that, and I did worse and worse in the meets. And I always blamed it on an injury I was dealing with or something else, but it was just I couldn't perform well because anytime I got close to a meet, I would start ramping up my drug use, and then those drug use just crashes the kidneys, and then I would do really well with my meet prep, and then just shit the bed when I got to the meet because I had no energy. My kidneys were fucked. So I'd get through squats. I had a PR on every squat, every meet I went to, but then after that, it just fell off.
Yeah, so basically, like, meet prep's going phenomenally. You add in the orals and stuff, and then that puts so much stress on your body that
Yeah,
shuts it all down.
that was it, man. Like, you know, looking back, like I felt my best when I was on a low dose of testosterone, maybe like a little EQ, like nothing huge, just like getting ready to. And that's when I benched 600 3 times. 3 times I did it on no orals. And then after I would add in like D-ball or this last time I was doing Anadrol, I added it just 50 milligrams because I'm not big on orals, and I added 50 milligrams every day. I added it 4 weeks out, and and it just fucking shut me down. Like I couldn't get out of bed. It felt like.
So, man, there's so many directions I can go with this because you've already said so much that I want to, expand upon. But like, do you feel like you can't run orals again because of the kidney situation? Like, is that pretty?
Oh yeah, I'm done with orals, man. Like there's just no need for me, especially knowing that it's a genetic defect. With like, I mean, everyone that comes at me is like, oh, it's because you did so much steroids, and I was like, dude, I wasn't huge on steroids. I was never really drug dependent. Like I played football for 17 years, all throughout college. I never touched steroids, so like I was already benching 480, almost 495 without them. So like it wasn't something that I was getting into. I didn't start off doing a whole bunch. It was like I'm the big component of like the smallest amount of stimulus for the most maximum amount of result. So I never did too much.
No, that makes sense. Like I've had times where I add in a lot and I've like experimented with a lot. I'm talking upwards of like 3 grams plus going into a meet. And then other times I've done very little. And it's kind of like you said, where I feel better and I perform better in the gym when I'm on less.
Right.
But I know like certain things, like honestly, I haven't hit a PR since I stopped using Tren. So that's a mind game because it's like I had my best meet 2018 in January 2018. And I was just basically on test Tren, and I might have been on an oral, I don't recall, but I used Tren, and now I haven't used that in like 2.5 years, and it's just been like such a struggle. So mentally, it's tough because I want a PR too, and I look at how people write you off and everything, and like that's how I feel, and I just want to get back at it, but
Yeah.
it's tough. It's a mental game.
Same, man. Like my motivation isn't really to prove anything to anybody. Like I want to get back for my own reasons. I never competed to like you have a chip on my shoulder saying fuck you. Like my whole life has like humbled me a little bit. Like I've been through a lot. So like knowing that like these guys walk away from me doesn't really motivate me in the sense to prove them wrong. It's just like, I got to do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting too, because that's kind of like the route I've started to go down now.
It's a healthier route, man. You walk
100%.
around angry all the time. It leads to bad things.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when you have those sponsors and everything, and like you're looking at social media and that's what everything's centered around, it puts a lot of pressure on you to always be putting out content and stepping up your game and filming everything and stuff like that. And that never worked for me. Like, honestly, it just made me regrets, if anything. So it's like, now I feel like I'm doing it for myself. Like I want to enjoy it. I'm actually having fun training again. I'm like, what a concept. But
yeah, that's a huge point of it, man. Like I think for me, feeling pressured to post and feeling pressured to hit PRs and like living up to the expectations of your contract was a lot, and like now kind of being able to talk more. Like for the fucking 5 years I was with Beast, I really couldn't talk about using steroids. And people would ask me questions, and I really couldn't talk about it because it was in my contract not to talk about those things. So for me, it's a little freeing to have more freedom to do whatever I want with my posts and like talk about things and not be, scared to be controversial with it and be able to talk about the things I want to talk about.
yeah, no, I agree. Like Animal never had a problem with being open about it because like I started talking right from the beginning. But it just was the pressure of like, all right, you got to post on a given schedule. You got to have a certain number of Instagram posts, and you got to film all these training sessions. And then it's like if you're not hitting PRs or you're in an off season where you're on like a cruise dose, then that's a problem. And it kind of got to be a lot. So I've enjoyed things now that I don't have that. But obviously, there's much less social media attention. It's been kind of humbling and weird, but I'm enjoying things again. I don't feel like I have 100 million eyes on me that I have to, live up to these expectations. It's like you get back to the root of why we got into this and you get to enjoy it.
Right.
So that's how
Yeah.
it's been too.
You know, I always said that once I stopped being sponsored, I was going to delete my Instagram, and I got real close. You know, like going everything I went through this last year, it was fucking hard, and I hit some hard times and got a little bit down. And I was like, you know, I don't want to have that there, but like for me, having the gym and everything else, it's some still a tool I need to have, and like I still rely heavily on coaching, so. It's like there still is a little bit of pressure to that, but I look forward to the day where I can get rid of it. To be honest, like I lifted what years? 2020. I started my Instagram in 2015. I think I started working out regularly in 2000. So 15 years without touching a fucking picture of myself or filming myself working out. And didn't even know what Instagram was until I walked in the Barbell Brigade for the first time and met Bradley Martin. Like that shit was all foreign to me. I never really cared for that attention. Like I can remember when YouTube first came out, and I would like dig up old lifting videos, see you deadlifting, and see guys like Stan Efferding with Mark and those guys, and you know that to me was motivation just to see what other guys were doing. But I never thought that I would put up videos of myself doing it. It was like it was a little foreign to me.
You got any questions, Scott?
Steve, are you gonna be okay now? Like that's the same thing. Isn't that what Flex had? Flex Wheel?
Yeah. You know, like you got to have a definition of what okay means. You know, like my quality of life is definitely going to be different. Like I'm in need of a transplant. I'm not on dialysis at the moment, but that's kind of touch and go. So after transplant, what life looks like, man, it's going to be different. You know, my protein intake's going to be different. Like you know, I used to walk around at 310 pounds. Like now I'm about 270, so I've already lost 40 pounds. You know, like the gear use is different. I haven't ran anything since I found out I was stage 5. So, you know, going forward, the life expectancy for someone post-op is about 12 to 20 years. So that's what they say you get out of kidney. Like whether or not I could get a second transplant, or if you know, there's other options at that time. The medical field's always doing some crazy shit. So I'm optimistic I'm gonna outlive 20 years. But you know, honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't think I'd link it to 40. So any day above ground's a win.
So like, how'd you get into this? Like what? Actually, let me ask this: how has your outlook changed on life, like overall? Like you kind of said a little bit about it, but like you got to be looking at things completely different. Like powerlifting is just whatever; it's not even a big deal, but it's something you enjoy. But what's your mindset?
You know, like it's a hobby to most people, but honestly, man, like I was into powerlifting. I say I started powerlifting 5 years ago, but honestly, I started competing 5 years ago. Like to me, going into the gym and lifting heavy is something I've always done. And like to me, the Instagram side of it and the sponsorship side of it and the competition side of it, it's all one thing. But honestly, dude, like it's something I'm never going to get away from. Like I wouldn't have built a gym unless it wasn't my life's passion. Like it's something that I'll always do, whether it's, you know, whether I'm crushing PRs or not. Like to me, it's just about going in there and practicing it because I love to do it. But as far as like my outlook on life, yeah, man, it definitely puts things in perspective. But I've had people close to me die and get sick and like it makes you appreciate life a little bit more and not get caught up in the bullshit of like what Instagram can do and what social media can do, where you're comparing your life to other people, and you know you're looking at people that are flashing cars and housing, and you know it's like, but they're not happy, man. Like you don't do those things when you're happy. You don't talk about yourself in a third person when you're happy. Like you don't need other people's approval. Like you just live your life and allow other people to live theirs, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm doing something pretty cool here with Indy City. And I got a group of guys around me that are real supportive, and you know I'm having a lot of fun with that. So like to me, my focus is with other lifters now, and not necessarily myself. So I could still get the same amount of satisfaction watching someone else get a PR and helping someone else get to that level, rather than just worrying about myself doing well.
That's awesome, because that's exactly what I've thought. It's like all those years when I was more like trying to flaunt things and make myself appear bigger or better than I was, it was fake. It's not real. It's like
Right.
when you don't have to do that, that's reality. Like those are the happiest people. The people who aren't trying to be flashy all the time and show that off, just
Yeah,
enjoying
man,
it.
and it comes across insecure anyway. You know, like you flip through your videos. I've never looked at someone's feed that had a lot of cars and talking about money and being rich, and I'm like envious of that person. And I just makes me feel like, what's wrong with this person that they feel the need to do this? Like, why can't you just be happy living your life? Like, that's cool to have those things. And like for me, like, you know, I've never talked about the lifestyle I've lived. I've never talked about the cars I drove. Like, I've had some success in my life, and it's not something I've ever talked about because I don't think it's relevant. Like, my message is more the health and fitness side of things, and in the last 5 years been geared more towards powerlifting, and I want my content to stay relevant to that. Like, I don't understand where you know, showing off comes involved into that. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Now, do you have any like long-term goals in mind, like directions you want your life to take or anything like that? Like, have
Dude,
you thought about that too much or?
yeah, you know, like I did it already. You know, I opening up my own gym was like the big goal, and it took me a little bit of time. Like I was a personal trainer out in LA, and I started my own company, like basically like some dumbbells out of the trunk of my car. And that grew into a business where I could have other friends of mine train my clients. Cause like one of the things I was really good at was selling. Like you know, I'm not the best trainer and I'm not the best uh, fitness guru in the world, but what I can really do is like motivate people and talk to people and get them involved. So I was able to build a business that allowed us to have 3 trainers underneath me. And when that happened, it just made sense to build our own gym. And that's where Hybrid Fitness came in Pasadena. And with that, we were able to build it to the point where one of the guys got so successful, he wanted to buy it off me. So I ended up selling it and then using that money to come out here and doing Indy City Barbell. So like to me, the goal was always to open up my own gym. Like I was 18 years old when I started personal training. I'll be 35 this year. So it's been a year since we opened up the gym's doors, but that was it, man. That's what I was kind of talking to some people around me now. I'm like, you know, I don't really know what my goal is for the next couple of years. Like I've been so focused to get where I'm at, and like I'm still not done yet. Like we started with 5,000 square feet. We started with 6,000 square feet, and right now I'm renovating another 5,500 square feet to add on to the facility. So like I'm still growing the gym. So that's really been my goal and my focus in the last, honestly, like 10 years to get to where I'm at. So I haven't really put much thought into anything after that.
Yeah, I did see that you guys were expanding. So that first gym in California, how big was that one? How many square feet?
1,500.
Okay.
It was like a personal training studio, man. But it was awesome because like I had all the monster racks in there. I had a customized deadlift platform. I had all the specialty bars. I had uh, a rogue bench with the fat pad on there. Like it had everything I needed, and it was literally right next to where my apartment was. So I would walk out my apartment and walk around the corner, and my studio was right there. So I had a fully functional gym, and I don't know if you've ever been to LA much, but that traffic is wicked. So it used to take me like an hour to drive to Barbell Brigade, but I would do that just to train with the right guys. You know, like I had a group out in California that were pretty amazing guys to lift with, that all totaled over 2K. So to have the knowledge from them is really how I got as good as I got.
You got anything you want to add to that, Scott?
Yeah, just going backwards a little bit, but you have your blood pressure all under control and everything?
Dude, they got me on so much medication now. Like I got to take like beta blockers and valve increases. Like I basically got like a resting heart rate of like 67. They got me so sedated every day. But like every single one of my medications, if you read the label, it says may cause drowsiness. Do not operate heavy machinery. And I got to take like fucking 19 pills a day. So like that has also been challenging when I'm trying to get in training too. It's like it's hard to get your energy up. Like I can't drink caffeine, and I can't do the pre-workouts anymore. So it's like for the first 2 weeks, man, it felt like I was just sleeping all the time, trying to get acclimated to the medication. But yeah, it's under control. I got a cuff at home. It's a little small for my arm, so sometimes it reads high. But when I go to the hospital, my last check-in with the doctor, I was like 125 over 78, which is normal.
Oh, good. Yeah, I did a podcast. We're actually going to have him on, but I did a podcast with Justin Harris, just a super smart guy. And he explained to me the whole. I mean, you had the FSGS. He said that a lot of bodybuilders and powerlifters, people that take steroids, that when your blood pressure goes up, it causes your heart to grow, to pump the blood stronger, and then what it does is it backs up the blood on the other side, and it causes your kidneys to actually shut down.
Yeah,
So
that was
there's a huge problem with
yeah, that was one of the things they were really worried about, because they're like, when they were trying to figure out what was going on with me, it was like one or two things. It's either the heart causing the kidneys to go, or it's the kidneys causing the heart to go. But like they did all the testing on my heart. My heart was fine. It wasn't enlarged. I wasn't in any danger of heart disease or heart failure, anything like that. They're like, you have the heart of an athlete. Your kidneys are just gone. So that was like, for me, and dealing with insurances, like one of the first questions I asked, because I walked into the ER and I was like 280 with like 6% body fat, and they're like, "Oh, this guy takes steroids." They're like, "How long have you been on steroids?" And I was like, "I don't take steroids. Like I'm not going to tell any fucking doctor I'm on steroids so you can deny me treatment or deny me. I don't want my insurance to deny me anything." And then they did all the testing, and they're like, "Well, I know you're not on steroids because your heart would be enlarged." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm not, like." Proves the fact that I wasn't taking large dosages.
Yeah.
Did you get a CT scan on your heart, or what was it?
Dude, they did everything, man. I was in there for 7 fucking days, Pete. 7 days. They like poked and prodded at me. I had to do like a CT scan. They injected some dye into me, and then had to go. They did an ultrasound over my entire body. Like they ran a whole bunch of tests. I got the medical bills to prove it.
You see, that's what's interesting, because like I had my heart checked a year ago, the CT scan, see plaque score and all that, and it was the same thing. There was 0 enlargement, and I had a 2. My plaque score was 2, which obviously the lowest you can get is 0. Anything below 10 is really good. So I'm like, well, I feel like this kind of proves that maybe I'm not justifying steroids, especially orals, but like and tren and stuff, but maybe it's not quite as bad as people think. Maybe it's like GH and insulin that's leading to that. I don't know, because I see these pro bodybuilders with the super enlarged hearts and everything, and I'm like, how is mine normal? How is yours normal?
Well,
I don't understand that.
There's a lot of factors that are going to be involved in that. Like genetics is going to be huge. Like me having the predisposition for FSGS. Like had I not taken steroids, I might have been able to avoid kidney failure for a long time. Like I have a cousin that has the same diagnosis. He's in his late 50s and he's only stage 3. He's not going to need a transplant. He's going to live the rest of his life fine. So like I think to answer your question, as far as like the heart enlargement and things like that, there has to be a predisposition there along with the secondary exposure, right? So now you incorporate a little bit of steroid use, or to some of these guys a lot. But as far as pro bodybuilders go, man, like I don't necessarily think it's the anabolics. A lot of these guys get in trouble with like the stimulants they're taking, and these guys are doing huge amounts of different things. Like it's not just anabolics. And on top of that, a lot of them don't diet very well. Like you go 12 weeks on a very clean diet, and then after that, they're just eating whatever the fuck they want. Like they have a very unhealthy relationship with food because they can eat whatever they want and take these drugs and get leaner anyway. And like I've witnessed it firsthand, like these guys like eating cheeseburgers on prep, and then when they get closer, just cutting that shit down and increasing their cardio. But some of them aren't as disciplined as you think.
Now, obviously, are you having to like eat a super strict diet now?
They didn't really give me a lot of guidance, man, because they're like, you're fucking working on a system that's going to need replacement anyway. So like I was working with a guy, he had me doing some like healthy kidney foods, and I was doing like things like fermented cabbage and beet juice, and I was doing small meals throughout the day, and that way I felt like I was getting more absorption, because part of the problem is like it just takes me a while to process things. So they didn't give me any restrictions. I was doing some of that on my own, but at the end of the day, man, they're like, you're gonna have to get it replaced anyway. It's like I'm trying to prolong it for as long as I can. But when I was in the hospital, my kidney function was down to 6%. Anything under 15 is considered stage 5. And I got back up to 12% after the hospital, just from like changing some things out and obviously getting away from toxins and cleaning up my diet a little bit.
So if you can hear my dogs, they're freaking out. They're like clawing at the door.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, that's the every video they got to make an appearance like this, barking or something. But that's the Malinois. She's trying to get in the room. She's clawing at the door. So, yeah, I might have to let her in here in a little bit. But yeah, going back, I know we're kind of going all over the place, but like, what brought you to Indy to open Indy City Barbell? Like, why'd you move from California to Indy?
Dude, everybody asked me that. They're like, you lived in LA. Why the fuck would you move to Indianapolis?
Weren't you born in Chicago too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the real reason. But like, I actually wanted to open up a barbell club in Chicago, and I was going to Illinois before I even opened up my first studio. I was going to Illinois and checking out locations. But dude, Illinois is just fucked for like they nickel and dime small businesses. The income tax is too high. Like, there's no incentive to build a business there. Like, their economy's fucked. So I came to Indianapolis and was here on vacation about 3 years ago. And I was like, oh man, like I was expecting like fucking cornfields. Like, I didn't think there was going to be much of a city here. But when I came in, man, they got an NBA team, an NFL team. They got all the big draws of a big city, but they're still small enough where there's a lot of growth. And what really brought me in was the economy. They're like, Indiana is one of the few states that has a surplus instead of a deficit. And the median salary here is about $38,000, where the cost of living is about $34,000. So it made a lot of sense financially to come here. Plus, you get a lot more for your money. Like, dude, what I pay for an apartment out here is like half of what I was paying for in LA. Plus, like, the square footage of my gym is about the same money as the studio was.
Wow, man, that's like a really smart way to look at things. I mean, just the way you break it down, it's like that's definitely lead to a lot more success and quality of life thinking the way that you do.
Yeah, man, it's a business, dude. You got to look at it that way. So it's like, I was doing all right in LA, but I was never going to live the life I wanted to live, like retirement and things like that. Like, when you work for yourself, you don't have a 401k. You don't have any medical benefits. Like, you're paying all these things out of pocket. You start looking at like, well, I can do this in a different state and have a lateral move with my income and then be saving 40% more money. Like, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Plus, being from the Midwest, it just made sense. Like, Chicago is only a 2.5-hour drive from here to see friends and family. So it's been good, man. Like, overall, I've been happy with the move. But, just the past year, dealing with some bullshit outside of that. But Indianapolis is a great city.
So you're telling me your rent was the same price as it is now for that many less square feet?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I had 1,500 square feet, but I was out in Pasadena, like right off of Fair Oaks, which is like a real nice part of that city. And it was expensive, man. So I paid the same price I'm right downtown Indianapolis, right on one of the largest streets leading out. And I have a 6,000 square foot. Now I have an 11,500 square foot facility.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And like, I can relate to it because obviously we opened this place January 1st, but we were scoping out locations a year ago. I kid you not. I remember the first day we were scoped out a location was May 8th. So that's actually Kelly's birthday. And like, we were scoping out locations for, I'm talking, I mean, it was about probably 4 or 5 months. And like, did you have to go around Indianapolis looking for locations? Did you do a lot of that?
Yeah, what's funny is I got this. I started working with a real estate agent out here before I moved here, and they sent me the location where I'm at first. And they're like, hey, I think this one would make the best deal for you. But like, dude, I'm not going to get into anything until I do some of my own groundwork. So like I scoured the city and looked at probably 15 to 17 other locations and even different concepts, man. Cause I was like, well, I could start off with smaller, you know, maybe I'll do like group fitness and not even do a barbell club. Like, you know, if I was more involved with it for the money, I probably would have invested into something else. Because as you know, like owning a gym, you're never going to be a millionaire, and it's been more of a headache than it is. But like to me, I was passionate about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do it because it's something I've always wanted to do. And I found that the location that they sent me in the beginning was the one that I ended up going with. But like it was like an old CrossFit gym, and these motherfuckers destroyed the gym first and foremost, and they had like all these weird fucking offices and studios built in there. Like I had to demo everything. I tore down all the walls. They had like this funky ass kitchen in the middle of it with these like dividing walls going up. So like I renovated the entire thing.
Dude, I remember those days of like renovating the place, and that was the hardest work. But looking back on it, I'm like, holy cow, look at how far things have come. Because I mean, I'm sure you're the same way, like painting every freaking day, doing all that kind of stuff, buffing the floors out, getting the glue off the floor, and just these horrible jobs that were just awful. Going to Home Depot 75 times a week and going to Walmart 75 times a week is brutal. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, my dumbass is doing it again. Like I'm doing it a year later with another fucking adding on another 5,500 square feet. And I'm like, my gym was fine the way it was.
That's good though. You're expanding. That's impressive. Because like my buddy up in Wisconsin at Madtown Fitness, he started out, the first place was like 2,000 square feet, and he was basically like suicidal initially because it was so difficult and he couldn't get people in the door. And now he's got 2 locations and he's just thriving. So it's possible. And like I've spoken to so many gym owners because like ours is only 2,500 square feet. And that was a ton of work, and that's only 25. So like I see you guys with these big spaces, and I'm like, man, I mean, I can only imagine how difficult that must be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a task, but like I said, luckily, dude, like, being in the Midwest, it's a blue collar town. We got a lot of guys that are willing to help out and offer their services, like with the membership that we have. So it's been pretty good. I got lucky, man. I can't say that I've been doing all of it myself because we're adding like electrical. There's been plumbing issues. I got showers there now. Like it's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of the community coming back to helping. Whereas like if I were to do this when I first opened and didn't know anybody, it would have been a lot more difficult. So like having the community that we've built over the year has definitely helped and can contribute. Like we're about to move equipment this week, and I got like 32 pieces of selectorized equipment. There's machines outside of the free weights that we have. So like I got like 50 people that have volunteered to come in to help me move everything.
Wow.
Yeah. I think a lot of them with the gym being shut down are just hoping to get a workout in, but I'm allowed.
That's what I've learned though. Like anything like this, you can't do it on your own. We've had tons of help as well, and really anything in life, like how far the things we've achieved in powerlifting, even it's like I've had so much help from so many different people. So it's never just on yourself. You get help everywhere.
The honest truth is, man, like I didn't really want to do the gym alone, and like that's where when I fell sick the second time, my buddy Garrett Fear, I brought on to he's now a part owner of the gym, but like I had my knee surgery and he was at the gym running every day. Then I was back in the hospital for the kidney failure, and he was back in the gym every day. He never asked me for anything. So like for me to bring him on, it's been a huge help for me. So like you said, man, you can't do it alone.
Yeah, it also resonated with me where you're like, as a gym owner, you don't get any health insurance, you don't get any 401k retirement benefits. It's like, if you want any of that stuff, it's all on you. You got to figure it out. And health insurance out of pocket is a disaster. So it's like, I know all this stuff, man. It's crazy. It's nice to be able to relate in that regard because it's not easy.
Yeah, or you could do what I do and like push your girlfriend to go back to school and get a great job. She could like gonna put her through nursing school. That way, I got something to rely on.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. Get her to get a career going, and then get a nurse anesthesiologist, and then I can retire.
Man, yeah, that works, I guess. It's gracious, man.
It's called an investment, Pete.
I understand. I hear you.
Put her through school, and you can rely on that later.
Working for the city is really good. My wife works for the city of Medford here where I live, and we have the best insurance, everything. I mean, it's really valuable. I mean, it makes your life way better. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I think there's pros and cons to both. To me, I could just never work for anybody else. So, like, to me, it was more about stepping out and doing something for myself. But definitely, I could see where like having a partner like that would definitely contribute.
No, I'm the same way. I can't work for anybody else. It's never felt right. And, you know, I never really wanted to open a gym, actually. Like, I saw my buddy do it, and I'm like, this is awful because the amount of work. It was always kind of Kelly's dream. And then, so, obviously, we got to get it going. That was her dream. And
well, she was the trainer, right?
Yeah, and what's funny is when you said, like, taking dumbbells out of the trunk, like, that's what she did for about 3 months. Like,
Yeah.
she helped open this gym with these other people, like 6 years ago. She helped co-open the gym, and then over the years, things went a certain way and kind of got ran out of there. And we literally just like had a big group of women and was like training them out of in church gyms and high school gyms and like taking dumbbells out of her trunk every morning. And then we found this place and we opened it up in January. So it's been like the struggle's been real, you know.
Every gym I've ever worked at, you know, like everybody always talks about owning their own gym. Like the people that are really into it. Like there's trainers that train because it's easy side money, and then there's trainers that train because it's their passion. And when you get someone that has it as a passion, the goal is always to open up their own gym. So like I've known people that have gone that route, but like one of the biggest questions I get to is like, how did you open your gym? What advice do you have for a gym? And I'm like, man, you got to live that life. So like having Kelly that, you know, we went similar route that I went into, like it just shows where her heart is. And like when you have someone that passionate about the gym, because I've worked for some owners that were real pieces of shit, like guys that didn't work out and they just looked at the gym as a piggy bank and wanted the least amount of investment to get the maximum amount of return. But when you have someone that lives and breathes this lifestyle, it shows in the ownership, and the memberships really appreciate it. Like that's where the gym starts being taken off and being successful.
100%. Like if you're passionate about it, that's it. And that's what's gonna get you through these times. Like, dude, we went through the same thing with the coronavirus, you know, garbage. Like we got shut down, I think, around the same time you guys did, and we've just been like trying to convert everything to online, and like it's just been crazy.
Are you guys open yet?
We opened today.
Dude, yeah, we just got extended another 20 days.
Oh my gosh. Jeez Louise, dude.
Oh, hey, Dan Bell here. As many of you guys know, I'm a world's strongest powerlifter. I actually just finished up reading this book from Scott Davenport, Mixed Martial Arts. I love how he gets in the mindset grit required to become successful. Scott tells a story of how it was installed in him in his early years. He then takes you through his rise through fighting, the camps, the coaches, his influences, and his opponents. He also dives into the hardships, the challenges, and injuries, everything that he needed to overcome them. Scott's virtues and faith carried him through these hardships and challenges to find your own. That mindset and that lessons that Scott learned and expressed in this book can be transferred to almost any endeavor. If you're interested in this story and how hard work, perseverance, faith can carry a person to their goals, this book is definitely for you.
Well, how has that been going for you guys?
It's been tough, you know, like I was like, luckily enough, the gym was doing well enough where I could suspend the memberships, but you know, we didn't get any grant money. We didn't get any PPE, like no loans were available. So when the second month rolled around, I'm like, guys, I got to turn the memberships back on. So we're charging members again. But I think, you know, like 99% of people are supportive, but we have a few people that just, don't get it. But the membership is pretty large at my gym now. Like, I think we grew it to like 280 members in the first year. So when we hit that number, you're going to have some people that are just there because it's convenient, right? Like, not everybody's like a diehard powerlifter. And, some people lost their jobs and we lost some members, but for the most part, it's been a pretty supportive community.
Well, Steve, what would happen if you just opened a gym? What would happen? Would they do anything?
Well, yeah, man, when we dude, I didn't want to shut down. And like, I was trying, and it's not about the money for me. It was more about like, what would I do? Because a lot of the gyms they heard about the coronavirus, they just shut down completely. And I was like, well, dude, if I was a member here, I'd still want to fucking lift. Like, what would I want? And I tried to look for loopholes. So what we found was, like, if you were personal training, you're allowed to have 10 people in there at a time. So I was like, all right, we can have 10 members here at a time. And somebody fucking called the cops on us, and the police showed up at the door and told us not to have. So to answer your question is, I'd probably get arrested.
Really?
Yeah. Like, in the governor's report, it's like they're going to penalize it to the maximum extent. If you're a business that's open, people read the news outlets, man. People are definitely getting arrested. And like I said, I've been in a lucky situation to where I don't have a huge overhead. I didn't take loans out. I don't owe anybody money. I just got to pay my rent every month. So like, for me, my overhead's a lot lower than a lot of these other people that have these businesses going with huge lines of credit that are due. And like, they're losing everything, man. So they're trying to open up their doors and they're getting arrested for it.
And you would be surprised at how many people are out there like looking for people doing anything and calling the cops. It's ridiculous, but
yeah,
it's no different around here.
Yeah, dude, I'm used to it, man. Like, nothing people do surprises me anymore. Like, I've gotten into some trouble for some bullshit in my life, and like, it just doesn't surprise me.
Now, what's like your backstory like before lifting and all that? Because I know, weren't you going down the wrong path and everything, and you kind of got into lifting? And I don't know much about it, to be honest, Steve, but I know a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on how far back you want to go, man. Like, I grew up in an area and just like got into some trouble early. Like, I think between like 6th grade and 7th grade year, I got arrested 12 times and was expelled from school, and I went to jail for 2 years in juvenile detention, and like was heavily involved in drugs and that scene. And when I got out is when I got into football. My parents moved me out of that school district, and I went to a different high school, and like kind of got away from all the kids I was hanging out with and all that shit. And that kind of like reshaped my life a little bit. So like, that's when I was like 16 is kind of when I turned things around for myself as far as like getting into trouble, but I still had that background. And after high school, just making a few dumb mistakes, like getting into fights and things like that. I was working at a bar, and I got into like some assault charges and things like that, but it was never anything like too serious. But that was one of the reasons I moved back to LA. I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, Chicago's just not a good look for me. I gotta get out of here and do something different with my life. And I went out to Santa Monica, and I played football for Santa Monica University. Transferred to UCLA, but in the timeline of like my football career, I had 3 surgeries. I tore my Liz Frank, I tore my PCL in my knee, and then ultimately I tore my Achilles tendon, and that was kind of like the career ender because it was back to back to back, similar to the 3 injuries I have now. Like, it's always back to back to back for me. And then like I get over it and I come back, and then it will be something else. That's what I like. I'm not betting that this is going to be my last time through it. But after football ended for me, then I kind of relapsed and got back into drugs. I got back into alcohol. I was living out in LA. And, I was in a studio apartment, and I was still functional to the point where like I was going to work and stuff. But man, like, I was not in a good headspace. And I was trying to figure things out. I was involved in fitness. I was still personal training. and but just wasn't real sure where my life was going to go, and that's where I kind of fell on powerlifting, because I was working out with a few guys, and they're like, actually met Chris Bell at Gold's Gym in Venice, and he's like, "You'd like my brother Mark," and I was like, "I've never heard of Mark," and at that time, slingshot wasn't a big deal, and he hooked me up with a seminar at Barbell Brigade, where there was like a bench press seminar. Mark was going to come in to talk to it, and Mark came over and was like, "Hey man, I think you'd really like powerlifting." I'm like, "Dude, that sounds gay as fuck. Like a bunch of guys in spandex. Like I don't want to lift weights with a bunch of dudes staring at me. Like I already have a hard enough time walking into LA Fitness and everybody's staring at me. Like it just sounds fucking stupid." And he's like, "Dude, I think you should give it a try." And he introduced me to some of the guys at Barbell Brigade, Adam Rodriguez and T. Papula, and I ended up meeting them for a workout. But it was my first workout with those guys ever. I tore my bicep. So like here I was just rehabbing off the Achilles tendon, just coming out of all of that. And then I found something else that that was positive for me in my life. Tore my bicep, but like I already knew, man, like going through everything I had been before that, like I was like, this isn't gonna phase me, this isn't gonna stop me. Like I know if I get through this, there's gonna be some positive for me. And I ended up not taking the painkillers, and I ended up not drinking, and I rehabbed it a lot faster than what my Achilles was. And I got back into the gym 6 weeks after my bicep tear, and the rest is history, man. I competed that June 2015 and put up like a 1978 total for my first meet.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, but you got to put it in perspective too, man. A lot of guys are like, "Hey, that's incredible," but like for your first powerlifting meet, I'm like, "Dude, I've been lifting for 17 years prior to that." It wasn't like, and that was like my first time running steroids, so it wasn't like it wasn't like I was fresh into lifting and I got that huge result. Like I got a huge result because there was anabolics involved.
You're a linebacker, right?
I played linebacker at Santa Monica, but then I got moved down to DN.
Got any cool stories from playing football? Like just anything that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, dude. Like, I mean, there was a time I played in a league in Inglewood. I was the only white guy on the team, and we traveled all over the place, like Compton and Long Beach, and that was quite an experience, man. It was like some of the best stories I have, though, are like the guys that didn't make it. Like what I learned the most was like the best athletes aren't the ones in the NFL. It's like those are the guys that have had the right opportunity when it meets preparation. But like the best athletes I've ever met don't play in the NFL. Like these guys are big, strong, fast dudes that just like had their head on the wrong way and just wouldn't go to class, didn't show up on time, had an attitude problem with the coach. But those were the most gifted dudes.
Yeah.
Like here I was trying to do everything I could, right? Like I showed up. Like I remember when I was at Santa Monica, I had the highest GPA on the team. And they're like, I'm like, how the fuck is this possible? I was in learning disability in high school. Like literally, I didn't take normal classes in high school. So like when I graduated college, my reading level was like at an 8th grade and my math level was at a 7th grade. That's when I graduated high school. I was like, thank you, Chicago public school system. So when I got to community college, they tell me I have the highest GPA. I'm like, how the fuck is this possible, man? Like I'm not a school guy. But I'm like, I show up every day. I sit in the front of class and I ask one question. Like one question a day. That was the 3 things I did, and it got me a full-ride scholarship. Like, how the fuck you can't do that? You're not trying? I don't know. But like, as long as you turn in all your work and show up on time, you're going to be fine.
So what did you enjoy more? Like, what have you enjoyed more, competitive powerlifting or football?
They're different, man. You're comparing apples to oranges. I miss football. You have the same amount of camaraderie, I would say. Like people are like honestly rooting for you in powerlifting, which I think is weird to me, right? Because you're competing against these guys. And it was like in football, if you're on a different team, you don't really fuck with too many people. But I think I miss the contact of football, right? Like I could get mad in powerlifting and it helps me a little bit, but like in football, if you like, you could really unleash a lot of fucking rage. And like the madder I got, the better I played. And with powerlifting, if I get really upset or frustrated with the lift, it doesn't really help me. My technique just goes to shit.
That's the irony.
So I would say like they're different, man. I think I've enjoyed each one equally at different phases of my life. But when I was 21 and 22, I wasn't ready to powerlift. I didn't have the discipline for it.
No, didn't you have like a full pec rupture on that 600 attempts?
And it wasn't a full rupture. It was a muscle belly rupture. So I didn't have surgery on that. It was like I'm basically missing about 1/3 of my pec. It just fucking tore right off.
Is that the worst injury you've ever had?
The quad tear is up there too, man. The quad tear was up there. The Achilles was no joke either, but I was able to come back from that. But I would say like the quad tears probably was the hardest one to go through, but I think in the long run, the pec tear is going to be the one that, like, I think after I get the transplant and start lifting regularly again, it's going to be the one that I feel the most. Because, like, I got up to, I think I benched 500 pounds since my pec tear. And, like, that, and like you said, I tore it benching 600. So I probably lost 100 pounds off that. And we'll see where I'm at with squats. I have no idea because like it's been a full year since my knee surgery. It's still fucked.
What was the weight when you ruptured the quad or you tore the quad tendon?
I was jumping. I was doing box jump. Yeah.
Another one of these stories.
What?
Julius Maddox did that. Remember, Pete? The Julius Maddox story. Those damn jumps.
So never freaking box jump is what I've learned from you guys, but
yeah, but it's fun, man. I mean, dude, I was 300 pounds. I had a 37-inch vertical. Like I could still dunk.
Dude.
And shit, so.
Well, okay, explain this one though. What happened with this quad? Like, what was going on?
What do you mean?
Like, you just were doing a box jump?
Yeah, I was box jumping. I went to jump off the ground and just popped, dude. I fell right on my ass.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, like, I had the video. I was like, pulled my pants down, and you could see it was just severed. I could see my kneecap just hanging there.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal, dude, because you can't bend your knee, you can't put any pressure on it. I knew right away what it was. I was sitting on the turf, and one of the guys at my gym came running over. He's like, "You need a hand?" I was like, "Nope, I tore my quad."
You know, you think it would happen on like a heavy squat or something, you know?
Dude,
like
I'm glad it didn't. I'm really glad it didn't. Like, you know, like Brandon Allen tore it a little bit before I did, and that motherfucker stood up with the weight. Like that would have bent me in half. I would have broken more than one knee if that was me. Like I look at like what happened to Brandon Lilly. He tore both at the same time. I think for him I think one popped, and then the weight of it made the other one pop. So I'm like, that's probably, with my luck, that's what would have happened to me.
I saw the exact same thing happen to Mark Miller at a meet. I was literally 15 feet from the platform, and this was like a small local meet in Oneida, Tennessee, which no one even knows where that is. And he had 800 pounds on the bar. He was wearing wraps and everything. His quad tendons, he tore both of them at the same time. They blew out. He's literally kneeling on the floor, writhing in pain for a half hour before they could get an ambulance. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. No,
both quad tendons.
It's
What's that?
Like the bicep, the Achilles, like those ones were like they weren't that painful. It was like once you went through it, the quad wasn't bad if I could like stay still, but there was certain like movement. If somebody bent my knee, it fucking hurt bad. And like when the surgeon got in there, he said like I tore through part of my quad, the actual muscle too. It wasn't just the tendon. He's like, it looked like a grenade went off.
Did they give you any reasoning why they think it happened? Was there anything you could have done to prevent it?
No, I mean, no, I don't think so. I think I partially tore it over 2 years ago, and like honestly, I think it's just backlash from the PCL injury in college. I had all my injuries are on the left side of my leg. My Achilles tendon, I tore my Lewis Frank, I tore my PCL, I tore my quad. Those are 4 injuries all on my left leg. So they're probably related in some regard. But, you know, like the surgeon didn't really tell me shit. He's just like, you're done squatting, and that's that. So that was the only advice he really gave me.
All my injuries are on the right side of my body. So there you go.
Yeah.
It's just nothing as severe as yours, but my goodness. Wow. See, I didn't even really know about the quad. I knew about the pack.
Yeah. The quad was like May 2nd, so a full year ago now.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the fucking hard part, man. Because like I tore the pack, and I was like, all right, well at least I could still bench and deadlift or squat and deadlift. And then 4 months after that, my quad went, and then I couldn't do anything.
Good Lord. You've been through a lot of crap, dude. What keeps you going? I mean,
that was just this year, man. Like that was just this year. Because, dude, like I said, man, like if we had a longer show, I could get more into what, like what when I was getting into drugs and alcohol and hanging out with the wrong people, what that kind of looked like. But like seeing all the shit I've seen, like these little setbacks aren't anything, man. Like I got goals and I'm motivated. Like these things are just bumps in the road to me.
So
let's hear it. Let's hear it about what you can expand on the drugs.
Let me unlock the door to Crazy Town first, okay?
All right. Yeah.
So I liked what you said about the NFL. You said the best guys you ever saw, they're not in the NFL because you saw these guys that had this potential that was crazy, but they just couldn't keep it together. I'm an MMA guy, and my first team I ever was with, my coach, my very first coach, his cousin was a guy. His name was Jared Wyatt, and anybody you could look him up. Look up Jared Wyatt. He was on my first team, and this guy, he would train 8 hours a day. He'd run on the beach. He'd ride bikes. He'd freaking do cardio all day. He'd fight people. He did like this guy did like ninja training where he would climb trees and like jump from tree to tree, like the craziest dude ever. Who could have probably been a world champion. I'm thinking, had endless cardio, and then just a crazy drive to fight. And he was just crazy though, dude. And he ended up taking mushrooms or something. He took some kind of mushroom drink, I think, and he beat his best friend to death. He was hanging with his best friend, did a bunch of psychedelics or whatever, lost his mind. And it was kind of one of those things where like kind of knew it was gonna happen though, you know what I mean? Because he would have these like violent outbursts where he would try to kill people. He went to jail. He would try to throw people off the rails and kill them, and it was kind of like you knew it was going to happen, but finally he did it. He beat his freaking best friend to death.
Well, it's just self-destructive behavior, man. There's a pattern there, right? And like for me, like I was talking about getting into fights and drug use and all that kind of go hand in hand. It's just self-destructive behavior. And you don't recognize that in yourself. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So lucky for me, I was able to find things that like kept me on a good path, like football and powerlifting. That way I didn't get as far down as your friend. Because like that's a common story, man. And if it's not killing somebody or killing themselves, it's getting into enough trouble where they're spending some serious prison time.
Yeah. So now that I opened Pandora's box, bro, go ahead and tell some stories.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, like what you'd want to talk about, because it's just, as far as like drug experiences and stuff like that, I got into it at an early age. And like I started smoking weed by the time I was 10 years old. And like there's nothing about me that's like self-preservation, right? Like I don't have moderation. Like I'm either a full go or not. So when I started smoking weed that summer, it was like start introduce anything I could get my hands onto. By the time I went to jail, I had done cocaine, weed, acid, mushrooms. I even tried meth a few times. It was like whatever could get you high would get me high, and I was never scared to fucking try anything. Like now, I'll do a little bit of edibles, and like I gotta moderate myself because like it scares the shit out of me, man. Like I fucking had right after my knee surgery, I was trying to not take painkillers because I got a problem with that. So I was doing doing these edibles, and like I took half a shot, and I had to leave my apartment door open with my music blasting so I could figure out what fucking apartment I lived in when I took out the trash. Like I didn't know where I was at, man. Like I was debating pissing into a water bottle because I didn't want to get lost on my way to the bathroom. Like nowadays, like I gotta really watch what my dosages are. But back then, like if one was good, two was better. Like I did everything and I did it hard.
So do you feel like you like escaped death a few times, or like?
Oh, easily, man. I have like experiences where I know I OD'd and like I know I died. Like I woke up gasping for air one time in the middle of the woods, not knowing where I was, and like that whole time, like I had this out of body experience where like I felt like I was dying, and like I kind of woke up and I knew what had happened, and I was like, you know, ever since then I was never really scared of dying because I was kind of like I already know what happens.
So that's like what kind of makes these powerlifting injuries not that big of a deal. Is that what you're saying?
And yeah, a little bit, man, but it's kind of like surreal too, because like
Lucy.
you live life and people kind of grasp onto things where it's like it's so serious, you know, like everything is so serious. And I'm like, dude, what's the worst case scenario? You're gonna fucking die anyway. Like, what are you really worried about? Like, you get so caught up into like, this is like such a big deal, and like I look at all these people with their petty little fucking squabbles, but to me, it makes me less empathetic. And like, I can't really relate to other people because I don't give a fuck. We're all gonna die anyway. So it's like, it's harder for me to like sympathize with somebody and what they're going through. Because like, when you have that outlook on life, like you just don't care.
And you just go after things.
Yeah, but dude, like the same things that made me successful are the same reasons that made me like very dangerous when I was younger, because like I just didn't give a fuck, and like you go after things, you take risks, but luckily for me it's been rewarding in my career, but in the other parts of my life, like it's been pretty detrimental, man. Like you do things impulsively for so long, it's going to catch up to you.
It's interesting because I'm always fascinated by like people's mindsets and like what makes people successful. So I'm just trying to pick your brain, like figure out what drives you. So that's awesome. That's interesting.
I love what you're saying about just like how people, they take things so seriously that don't even mean anything. But you know, like what you're talking about, I can relate to that too. Like where you just look at it like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, but it's a dangerous mindset to get into, man, because then it's like if you're not putting an effort to things and you don't give a fuck about things, then you get caught up into like, you know, you got to be careful because you can't get too far into that mentality, because then you're going to hurt people's feelings and have people walk away from you that you don't necessarily want to walk away from. Like, and that's what's gotten me in trouble in the past. Like, I've had relationships where they're like, you don't care. And I'm like, you're right. I don't fucking care. Like, I don't. So, like, to them, you know, you got to put in the effort and got to be emotionally involved. And sometimes it's hard for me. Like, I don't think I have the same emotions as other people. Like, I think other people they cry after they don't hit a goal, or they get so angry they can't contain it. Like, I don't have those emotions. Like, I'm very much like just melatonin. Like, I'm just like, I am who I am when I am. And it doesn't mean I don't get upset, but I just don't feel it to the same extent as other people. Like, it's never made sense to me where I see somebody crying on like Instagram or putting their emotional baggage on Instagram, but like to other people it makes sense. To me it doesn't. So like it's hard for me to relate.
No, that honestly, that's fascinating because I've always felt that exact same way. Maybe not to the extent that you feel it, but I've felt that exact same way where I'm like, I have a hard time voicing emotions or feeling things, or like I'm always just kind of like neutral. Dude, I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I see people like, you know, you look at people that are really passionate about shit, and it's like I get a little envious of that because like I don't feel that way about much. It's more like for me, it's just kind of like, you know, come and go. But I think a lot of it comes through like trauma and experiences. You know, like after you've been through so much, It just kind of makes you think like, this isn't as big as a deal as people put into it.
Wow. I love that you brought this up. I love hearing this because it's funny. I used to ask Pete all the time. I'd be like, why do you powerlift, Pete? And Pete would never answer that question. He'd just be like, let's go ahead and move on to the next subject. And I wonder, why did you powerlift and what does that mean to you? And, I kind of, I just want to know that just to relate that. And I still have never got an answer out of Pete on that one.
For why does he powerlift?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a deeper meaning, like searching for a deeper meaning in it. And maybe there isn't one, but it is like it's kind of like a big part of your identity, right? I mean, both of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, like I said though, I was doing this long before anybody knew I was doing it. Like I was the guy that showed up to the LA Fitness with his headphones on and didn't fucking talk to anybody. I would just go in there and lift heavy ass weight, and like I wasn't in there for the social aspect, and I didn't want anybody to like credit me. Like the thought of filming myself and posting it onto a fucking social media platform to get people to watch me lift was like that to me was like ridiculous. And the fact that I did it for as long as I did and I'm still doing it, it's like like it means something different to me now being a tool for business. But like
that's it.
Whether I would still be doing this without Instagram or social media, and the reason I do it is more so like it's how I process things, man. Like I said, I'm not really attached to like a lot of things in my life, and like I like pushing myself. I like challenging myself, and like the weight room is one way I can do that. And like it's one of those things where like I've been in a lot of shitty situations where I was not in control of it, and like you can put more effort into relationships. You can try your hardest at work, but you don't always get the same return with that. But with weightlifting, I can watch myself grow and have a direct impact on the result. So the more time I put in, the better I'll get. And that's really something that I like doing is like I like to grow and I like the challenge of it. And I think that's why I fell in love with squats so much was because it was the hardest one for me. Like benching was always all right. And like I didn't start deadlifting until way after college. And like I think my first deadlift ever, I pulled 715. So it was never like a big challenge for me. It was like some of the things that came naturally just from all the other types of lifting I had done. But squats were the worst. So that to me was the thing I got the most reward out of because it was the most challenging.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I got into lifting just because I was like pissed off at the world and like I didn't have any friends. And I was this skinny kid, and I'm just like, well, no one thinks anything of me, so I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna make something of myself. And I have had that chip on my shoulder in the past where I'm like, all right, nobody thinks anything of me or expects me to do anything, so I'm gonna prove them all wrong. And I just was pissed off all the time. And that's why the basement stuff, like I was natural for most of those clips up until a certain point. It's just I had that rage because I was like almost the FU attitude.
You can see it, man. I remember watching your videos, and this was before I was really even powerlifting, and I'm like, how the fuck is this guy so much smaller than me, but that much stronger than me? Like, I don't get it. And now I know he was lifting with years of rage built up into him. He had all that anger putting out into the weights.
Well, let's think about it. You're a teenager. You're nobody. No girls think anything of you. You can't get it. You can't get any girls. You don't have any friends, and that was kind of by choice. You never go out to party. You're very sheltered. My parents like raised me pretty sheltered, and it worked out okay. But once I got to college, I let loose. Once I got to college, that was kind of. But at the same time, it's like I had all this channeled aggression where it was like I need to get it out somewhere, and I wanted to be something, and it just deadlift came easy to me, just like bench for you. You said that one was the most natural, and it all came out. I was like, every time I hit a PR, it was like an FU to everybody else. Like, what's up? I'm getting somewhere. I don't have that anymore. I've said this. Like, things are good in life. Things have gone well, and like I'm happy. So it's a lot harder to get pissed off at the weights and be like freaking out. I can't do that really.
Yeah. See. it was never that for me. Like I never had a chip on my shoulder. I never did it for other people. Like I had a lot of friends, and like actually as I've gotten older, I've gotten less social, and I've gotten more introverted in my older ages. But when I was younger, like, that was never a problem. Dating was never a problem. Like it was never anything like that. It was always like, I wanted to see how far I could push myself, just to see how far I could push myself. Like it was more of like how I got into fitness was trying to learn the most about the human body so I could see how far I could push myself and like be the best athlete I could be. But, like the motivation wasn't really anything external. It was more just like just curiosity, really.
So before we move on past this, I just want to say, like, I remember listening to Mike Tyson one time talking, because it kind of reminds me of you. And someone was asking him about his legacy. They're like, "How do you feel about your legacy? Because you made this mistake and you did this wrong, and you probably could have been the greatest fighter ever and have been 100-0 and all stuff." And Mike Tyson said, kind of like you. Mike Tyson said, he's like, "I grew up where everybody I know is dead. Everybody I know is dead. And my mom was a prostitute. My dad was a pimp. And my life was hell. And I never should have been anything. I was the champion of the world and did all this stuff." And he's like, he's like, everybody takes this so seriously, but it doesn't even mean anything to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I wouldn't go
Great.
as far as that. I wouldn't go as far as that, but like, one, I haven't accomplished nearly as much as Mike Tyson. But like I look at it and I'm just like, a lot of my friends have died. A lot of like friends that I grew up with are dead or in jail or living lives they're not happy with. And like to me, I'm living my dream life. So like I got a lot of things to be positive for. And like as far as legacy goes, man, like I'm not really concerned with it. It's like no one's gonna know who I was when I die, and I'm okay with that. Like you impact the people around you, a very small circle of people, and like those are the people I'm focused on the most. Like trying to get remembered and shit like that. Like that was never my goal. Like I'm riding the wave for as long as I can, and like as long as people want to watch my videos and be a part of the Instagram and things like that, like I'll ride that wave. But when it goes away, man, like I'll still be happy just with the small circle of people that are around me.
Yeah, I've felt more of that because I've honestly, like, there's not anywhere close to as many people watching my stuff as there used to be. And it's been like, initially it was kind of hard to accept, but now I've almost come to peace with that. And I'm like, I'm back at a stage where I almost am doing this for myself rather than trying to fulfill sponsor obligations or impress people. It's like, this feels good now. It feels like it used to. I've had times where I'm struggling. I'm like, I want to get back to the days of the basement where I didn't know there was going to be any attention or anything. It was just for me. And
Right.
like, I've had a hard time getting back to that, but it's like, I sort of feel that now. I'm like, I'm doing this for myself again. And
Yeah,
I'm not.
I think you need to go through that at some point in your life, and like everybody has like a coming to age story, right? Where like you stop doing things for other people and start focusing on what really makes you happy. But like watching your comeback now, I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. And like hopefully you'll have some more success in your life, and you're still young enough. Like you got a lot more meats left in you, so like I think it'll mean a lot more to you too.
Yeah, I hope so. Cause like we've talked about this in other episodes and like, we're early into this, but I'm like, I'm only going to do one meet a year and train that whole year for that meet and things like that. And I'm just trying to use a more logical, slower, methodical approach where I'm like, I'm going to freaking do my programming perfectly and stick to the plan and go as long as I can without any extra drugs besides testosterone at a small dose and just try to milk every little thing and make it perfect. And then when I add in the extra stuff and I get to that higher level, I'm ready for it. So I'm trying to go about it much differently than before and do a much smarter approach because I haven't done that in the past.
Yeah, dude, and you'll get a lot more out of it that way too, man. It'll be more rewarding for you personally, but I honestly think it'll allow you to have, without that pressure coming from the external aspect of it, like you'll perform better. I think if you're doing it for yourself and actually enjoying it and more focused on being a better technician, you're going to have a better meet anyway.
I definitely agree. It's like, I know you've been to the Arnold too, and it's like it used to be like, oh, we got to put on a show and do the Arnold and all this, and now it's just like I'm almost happy I don't have to go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, I know it, man. Like, it was always a goal of mine to lift in the cage just because it seemed like a lot of fun. But, like, you know, I got in there a few times with some friends lifting. It's actually where I met you the first time. And it's, you know, something that is on the back burner now just because I don't think I'll ever be in a position to get back into there. But, you know, I don't beat myself up over it. Like, a lot of people are so fucking scared to go after their goals in life that they never end up doing it. Like, they're just so scared of failing that they never try. And at least, like, me and you gave it a go. And, like, even though I hold no world records, it's like I got closer than most people ever fucking dream about. So it's like, you know, you give it, I can honestly look back at my career and say, like, I did everything I could have done to get to where I needed to go. And, like, I gave it a shot. You know, I got no problem walking away from that.
yeah, and I'm trying to like basically do everything differently than in the past and use a different approach. And I'm still trying, but you know, it's like 400 kilo deadlift. I've missed that weight in meets like probably 8 times, and I never stop though. I'm like, I'm gonna keep coming up with a game plan here and trying something out different. And you know, it's humbling, but I think it's like you said, it's gonna be all that more rewarding in the end.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. And honestly, man, like, spending more time and like more time away from heavy deadlifting and like rebuilding the basics like you've done and rehabbing injuries, like you always come back a better lifter. So I think like like you said, it'll be more rewarding, but like also like you're just getting better every time you go through it.
yeah, I think so. It's part of the process, like you said. Different stages of life. I think I heard a thing where it's like you become a new person every 7 years. Like your whole personality and everything morphs, and your goals change. What you're trying to do with your life changes, and it's almost like I feel like I just hit that stage. I'm turning 29 later this year, and it's honestly, it's like one of my biggest goals in life. It sounds so funny, but it's like I just want to live in Maui, Hawaii at some point. Like we go there every year. We love it. It's our favorite place in the world, and like that's pretty much one of my biggest goals because that's just what makes me happy. It's just things like that.
You should do it, man.
That's definitely the plan. That's what I'm trying to get to. But opening this gym's been huge, and like obviously I still enjoy lifting like you, and I want to continue to compete and hit PRs. But it's just crazy how life changes and you
Yeah.
start to have clarity.
Yeah, dude, like competing is fun, but it's not everything, you know. Like there's gonna be a time in everybody's life where like you're gonna walk away from it. And I don't think you're ever gonna be 100% satisfied with any aspect of it. You know, it's never easy to let it go, but you're not going to be doing this at 50. And if you are, it's definitely not going to be at the same level you're at now. So you just got to prepare yourself for that mentally. And like, honestly, man, you start getting satisfaction out of other things, like coaching other people, helping other people. And like, it just, you don't miss it, you know, like, yeah, it's fun. And like, to me, like it was definitely like a mind fuck, like I said, going from hitting PRs and being the strongest and biggest and leanest I ever was. So a year later, basically being injury riddled in a hospital bed, not knowing if I'd ever lift again. You know, it's just like, you know, it's not about the end result. It's about the journey, you know, like in being able to lift with people and learn with people and grow as a man as well as an athlete. Like those are the things that I've learned. Like it's you got to enjoy the ride. So you spend all this time like, I want to hit this PR, and if I don't hit this PR, I'm not going to be who I want to be. Like all that bullshit. Like you got to learn to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, that's how I feel now. You want to jump in, Scott?
I think Scott left, man.
Where the heck is Scott?
He's gone. We lost him.
I don't know how to get him back on here because this happened to me on the last one, but it says his name, but I don't see him there. So all right, maybe we lost him. he usually ties everything together and wraps it up for me. But no, so you said you are still gonna compete?
Yeah, dude. My goal, like whether like my goal is after the transplant, I'm gonna do at least one more meet. Like it'll. There he is.
Hey, sorry
No,
about that.
Mike. You
You
have
take
to
it.
me last time.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna do one more meet after I compete, whether I PR or not, man. It's just to say I came back. You know, I got very minimum expectations of what that'll look like, but the goal is just to get on the platform one more time. And like, who knows, man? If I do the surgery and rehab and I start doing well and like the injuries start tying in together, like I might take it further. But for right now, like my main goal is just to get healthy.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, Scott, did you have any major questions you wanted to ask Steve?
Yeah, just a few things. First, I wanted to ask you, have you always been, so massive? Because you're like such a freaking huge guy. You're like the most jacked dude probably powerlifting. Is that something like, did you do something to get like that, or
Like I said, man, like no, like when I was growing up, I actually was a safety in high school. Like I was a pretty skinny dude. I think I graduated high school. I was like 6'2", 210 pounds at graduation. So like, and then when I played college football, I was 6'3", 240. So like, it wasn't until my first round of anabolics where I really got huge, and that was 2014. I decided I was going to go into powerlifting, and I ran test and D-ball, and I gained 40 pounds, and 30 of it stuck on my first cycle. So I went from about 250 to 290, and then when I came off, I got back down to like 275. But then since then, man, it's been the same frame since. Like, you look at some of my earlier videos, I was a little leaner and a little bit more trim. And over the years of just powerlifting and lifting the heavier weights, it got bigger and bigger. But no, I wouldn't say I was always like a big jack guy. I would say I always had like the genetic predisposition, but I trained natural for a long, long time.
do you think, I'm always pushing Pete to get some more mass. Do you think, what do you think for Pete? You think, what do you like with Pete? Do you see him like maybe getting a little bigger, or what do you see for Pete for the advice that you would give him?
Well, Pete's already gotten a lot bigger than when he first started off, and like I think a lot of yeah, and it's funny. I actually had the same conversation with Garrett because he was cutting weight to get down to 198, and he's only like an inch or two shorter than me. So I'm like, dude, you are way too fucking light or way too tall to be at 198. And he would argue with me that putting on more size wasn't going to help him be a better lifter. And then this offseason, he got up, like, I think he gained like 12 pounds. And he's like, hey, dude, my bench is going up. I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, I've been telling you for the 2 years I've known you, like, if you put on more muscle mass, it's going to help you lift a little bit better. But, like, I don't think for everybody there's like adding on a huge amount of mass is going to help it. But dude, if you're putting on lean muscle tissue, like, yeah, you're going to get stronger. That's a no-brainer. As long as you're still training powerlifting. Like a lot of guys are like, oh, I see these bodybuilders and they're not strong. And I'm like, yeah, because they don't train the same way you do. But you take a guy like Pete, who's already fucking strong, and you add more dense muscle to his frame, of course he's going to get stronger. And then, like, one of the things that made me successful was, like, being able to identify my weaknesses. So, like, I kind of took, like, an Arnold's approach to bodybuilding, to powerlifting, where, like, he would look at his physique and say, my triceps are weak, I'm going to build that up. Well, I would look at my squat and say, I need more quads, and I would build that up. And I think those are the things that allowed me to, like, keep getting better, was being able to identify my weaker muscle groups and spend more time emphasizing the hypertrophic effects and then strengthening them through different phases of training.
So what was the biggest thing that helped your squat? You're saying growing your quads?
Yeah. And increasing frequency, because that was a lift. Like in football, we didn't really max out squats. Like everybody benched heavy, but like you saved your legs for, like you would train legs. Like basically I would take 405 for reps. It was pretty much how I trained for years. And I didn't really do heavy singles because like it always hurt my fucking knees. So like the biggest thing for squatting was just adding more squats. But building the quads definitely helped. I got a coach, Chad Wesley Smith. He helped me out a lot. And like I had never done pause squats or any type of accommodating weight with that. And just adding in more frequency and more volume was the biggest factor.
Okay. That makes sense because that was the lift you said you struggled with the most, and you obviously got it up pretty high, 804.
Yeah,
804 squat.
it was a challenge for me just for like being as tall as I was, and I was lean, dude. Like you said, like muscular, but like being 6'3", and like when I started powerlifting, I had a 32-inch waist. Like you're not gonna have a whole bunch of weight on your frame when you're that lean. Like it took me some time to build up my core, and took me some time to build up my legs to the point where I could do those things. Because like up until that, it was like in football, you don't want to be so big, you want to be fast. So I trained speed, and like one of the feedback I get on people see me deadlift, and they're like, dude, you just move the weight so fast. And I was like, 'cause I trained explosion, I trained speed my whole life.
Do you still work with Chad, or did you work with Chad through your whole powerlifting so far? Or
no, I did 2 meets with a different coach. Then when I met Chad, I was working with him, but Chad was never like a real hands-on coach with me. He would kind of like, he wrote me out, I think 2 or 3 programs, and I kind of took that and adopted it into my own style of training. And then I'd keep in touch with him. Like he was in town here a month ago. I went to lunch with him. Like we still talk, and I can reach out to him whenever I want if I'm looking for feedback and stuff like that. But he was never like a guy that I would send videos to and he would send me feedback back. Like it was more, he'd help me out a little bit with programming and some feedback here and there. But I definitely learned a lot from him. I'm also one of those, I don't need to be micromanaged though. I just need a little bit of guidance. Like if you give me a game plan, I'll execute it.
Is there one person who's been like the most influential in your powerlifting career?
Yeah, I'd have to say, I don't. You probably don't know who this guy is, but Adam Rodriguez.
No, I know who that is. I
Yeah,
swear I
okay.
do. I followed all you guys. I was watching you guys when you were out at freaking Barbell Brigade, and I'm like, who the hell are these guys? They're freaking strong as hell. Like,
Yeah.
I know I've never told you that, but I swear, like, people don't realize I've been watching you guys just as much, like, right from the beginning. And I respect all you guys. I've seen everything you've done. And I just haven't – I wish I told people more often, like, dude, I respect the hell out of you guys. You're way stronger than me. And I saw what all you guys were doing. So I watched all that stuff.
Yeah. Dude, we had a great group of guys, man. And, like, one of the things I want to touch, like, with that group, but Adam especially just, we bonded over, like, we were the most consistent. Like, you add in other guys like Mason Cervantes, T. Papula, and Andy Huang. All those guys that I lifted with, like Andy has a 2,200 pound total, T. Papula total 2,100 pounds, Adam and Mason were about 220-80. But dude, none of them had egos. None of them were selfish in any regard. Like they all honestly wanted everybody else to do better. So it was like the best group of dudes you could imagine to lift with. Like they just had your back. Like Mason and Andy actually came out here to do a seminar at my gym. Like they still keep in touch, and those guys and Adam in particular, like, he wrapped my knees every meet. He was my training partner every day. Like those were the guys that got me better. They gave me feedback. They were spotting me, loading me. They were the ones telling me what I should do differently in each lift to get better. Like those were the guys that helped me the most.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't keep up with all those guys. Like, I don't keep up with anybody that much anymore. But I just remember seeing all you guys, and, like, I mean, you had a heck of a strong gym going there.
Yeah, we had a crew. None of them lift there anymore. They're all gone.
It's so funny how life changes and people go their separate ways. And
yeah, like T broke the world record at 242.
Yep.
And about a week later, Larry Wheels broke it. And then he got into medical school, and he's doing the doctor thing now. Mason's had a few injuries. Andy's still going pretty well. He's had a rough ride too. He's my age, but he's actually looking the strongest he has. I think after this quarantine, you're going to see something big out of him. And then Adam had a baby, and he's married now, and just focused on family life.
Respect that, man.
Yeah, I mean, they all still lived and still are passionate about it, but we had a good run there for about 3 years where we were all like on the same level getting after it. But after I left, it kind of fell apart. So I was like the Diana Ross of the group. I kept them all together.
So I like to ask everybody in these podcasts, do you believe in God, or do you have faith in God? Or if not, if you don't, what values are your most important values, like your top values that you live by and that kind of like guide you through your life and stuff?
That's tough, man, and that's something I struggle with a lot. And that's a whole lot to get into for a powerlifting podcast. But I think for me, like I definitely believe in a higher power. So I would classify myself as agnostic. I spent some time like just studying religion academically, and it was kind of a big deterrent for me because a lot of the Christian population that I met were like some of the most judgmental people I've ever met. And like to me, that was a real deterrent, like from religion. So I think inherently most people, I wouldn't say all people, but inherently most people will know the difference between right and wrong. And like whether you want to argue if that's sociological or biological, like, I'm not here to argue that, but I think most people have that line. And like those are the morals that I try to follow, like I try to do what I feel is the right thing, like helping people out. And like I wouldn't say I always make the right decisions. And like, look, I don't think anybody does, but like at the end of the day, I try to follow that, like I want to walk away from something feeling like I made the best decision, not only for myself, but like what I felt was right, which isn't always in my best interest at times, but like I do it anyway,
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard other people say the same thing. Like, it is true. There's a lot of people out there who are saying they're Christians and doing the wrong stuff, and like, I'm not one to preach to people or anything. Like, I do believe in God, and I'm Christian, and that's something I was honestly too scared to voice even a couple of years ago. But I've tried to be more open about that now. But I just try to like lead by example. Like, go about your life in a way where it shows people that, it exemplifies that, and that's how I want to be, instead of like trying to preach it to people and be like, oh, you got to do this, and that just never comes across good.
I think that's the best way to go about anything in life, like the best leaders are the ones out front, and they're not the ones telling people what to do, but they're the ones showing them. So I think like whether you want to take that into religion or business or whatever, but I think that's the best way.
Yeah, man. And being a football player, you're obviously familiar with John 3:16, right?
Yeah.
That's like the big one in John 3:16. Everybody's always about John 3:16. I like that verse, but John 3:17, nobody ever talks about John 3:17. Says that Christ came to the world, to save the world, not to condemn the world, and
Right.
that was the whole entire purpose of Christ coming. His heart is desire. God's heart is to save everybody. I mean, we could go on and on. I know, like you said, it's a long podcast, a powerlifting podcast, but that's not a good representation of Christianity. I don't think when people are judgmental. Jesus came, and if you look at the life of Jesus, he came against religious people. That's what he really did. He came and he freaking went against all the religious people, and then they actually crucified him for it, because all the people started following him, and they're like, dude is freaking coming against the church, that ain't right. So we're gonna kill him. But the people, the regular people, they were the ones that believed in him. And what he did too as well. Actually, it's interesting because you're having a lot of health issues. He healed people. That's what Jesus did. Actually, if you look at his life, what the two main things that Jesus did is he healed people and then he was crucified. Those are the two primary things that he did in his lifetime, and that's why people believed in him, was for those reasons.
So are you saying Pete should be the modern day Jesus?
Pete? Yes, Pete, you're the modern.
I I don't think
Yeah,
so.
lead by example.
Lead by example. That's what's up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, man. I didn't want to like. Pete said he's like Steve's a real serious guy, man. Don't joke around with him too much. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna joke around with him too much. But I always tell my wife because I'm into powerlifting. I want to do this stuff, And my wife's like, "What are you doing, man? You're freaking like eating all this food and trying to get jacked and lifting weights." And then I would always, this is just funny. I would always show my wife a picture of you and be like, "This is why I do this." She's like, "This I see Gentili there." She's like, "This is her response is, you'll never be like that guy."
Yeah, you got to start with some tattoos, man. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I got them.
Hey, that's one down.
Yeah. So freaking thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate it, man. It was I did not expect it to start off that way at all. I did not. I thought we were gonna start with like football and stuff, and that was like it was very like humbling and sobering to hear your story and stuff like that and what you're going through. It's just like blew my mind, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks, buddy. Appreciate it big time, man.
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of what you've done, and like I've looked up to you honestly, and like hearing everything that you said today, it makes me respect you that much more because, like I said, it's things people need to hear, and I can relate to so many things you said. So,
hey, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Hopefully, I'll see you guys further down the road, and we got to get you out to Indy City one day, Pete, and get you up here and lift with us. So I know you're out in Tennessee. We got to get you before you move to Maui, and I'll never see you again.
that might be about 15 years, and honestly, I don't know how many people would be interested anymore, but I'd definitely be down. I know that's only about 4 or 5 hours away, so I think it's about 5 hours. And I usually drive through Indy on the way up to Wisconsin to see my parents.
Yeah, anytime you're coming this way, man, just hit me up.
Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yep, thank you.
Man. So, next week we have Will Ultra Beast Dinwiddie on. You probably don't know who he is because you're a loser, a jabroni. But I'm going to share Will's 225 pounds for 100 reps squat. And if you can find someone else that's done that, I will send you a copy of either one of my books for free. Mixed Martial Arts or Scott Strong. I will send you a free copy. You know why I'm offering this? Because I know you won't. There's nobody else that's ever done it. Maybe Tom Platz did it way back in the day. That's possible. But no one else has done it.
And we're live. Alright, here we go. Big Will Ultra Beast, 225 right here, 100 unbroken reps. Let's just check my body weight to make sure I'm under 225.
You want me to zoom out?
Let's zero the scale. It's zeroed.
You want me to zoom out?
Just make sure you're good. $219.
Hold on.
You got that? $219.
219. Getting the knees ready. Testing the zoom in, zoom out. All right. Lacing up the shoes. You want it straight on or do you want it to the side? Straight on or to the side? All right.
All right, ready? No belt.
You got this, Will. Rep number 1. That's 10. That's 20. Looking good. Looking easy. You're a quarter weight. $30. 30%. You got this, Will. Halfway. Nice.
Halfway, baby.
That's 50.
For you, Marshall.
You got this, Will. Ah! 60%. 3/5. You got it, Will. 70%. Quarters. Almost there. Good. It's all downhill from here. You got it. More. You can do that in your sleep.
For you, Marshall!
Come on. 5 more.
5 more. Marshall!
Come on, almost there. 1 more.
Marshall! 500! Yeah! Got it! Good job. Nice.
The underground sound in a city or a town, the frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound in a city or a town, the frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within, to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus and the praise of Him, by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention Him, or then you're gon' die. Cause the underground sound in a city or a town, the business of a crown.